Hello everybody and welcome to Tales Unfold. My name is Blossom and today we talk about beings or energy beings in your home. We talk about earthbound spirits or ghosts. We talk about the guardians in and around your home, dark energy beings and more. So let's dive in. So before we begin, I want to mention that I did not include the Fae beings in this section because also in my house healing report they have a section of their own. So the Faes are the fairy beings are excluded in this section. Not because they are not worth it. On the contrary, there's so much to say about them. You know, I work with them a lot. I love that energy. I love to work with them. So I will have a video or an episode for those beings, nature spirits, which includes the Fae, animal spirits, tree spirits, and so on. So we're gonna have a look at that at a later point. Let us focus first on other beings that may roam about your home. They don't have to, but maybe. And for many, the first thing that comes to mind, this will be spirits, earthbound spirits or ghosts. So let's have a look at those. Those earthbound spirits are the restless souls of humans. After they passed, but their soul remained, they didn't move into the light, however you want to call it. They didn't move on, they didn't move into the light. They didn't move into the light. And they remained here on the earth plane. So those are human beings, all right. So there are a few reasons why this might happen, why a soul remains on earth after they passed. One of the reasons could be that their death was so suddenly, they don't even realize they passed away. So this can be caused by usually often accidents, if they really get ripped out of their life, if they just, what you would call they passed too young, they went before their time. So that is one of the reasons why they might stay and they are not really aware that they have passed away. Often, like I said, often this can happen when the human being, the person died quite young, then they are not really aware of it. But also things, so it's not only accidents, it can also be murder, could play a role in this, and other tragic happenings. Now, I was actually surprised how often that happens, that the spirit is not aware that they are dead. So you step into a conversation with spirits once you detect there are some there. You can do that through dowsing. You can also lay out the cards if you prefer. Maybe you just do it through meditation, opening up to them, however, in whatever way you do that. And the moment you figure then out that they are not aware that they are dead, and then you kind of ask the question, are you aware that you are dead? And then comes a no. Well, then it's a bit awkward. I don't try to be insensitive here, but it is awkward. And so then you try to explain to them that their time on earth is over and that they have passed away. You try to figure out what exactly happened, because some are confused and they cannot even remember entirely what happened. So you try to figure out this puzzle, like I said again, through dowsing, through tarot reading, through mediumship, whatever works for you. And then already when you put all those pieces together, for some souls that is already enough. So they become aware, they remember what happened, and they can move on. So you don't actually have to do anything. You you give some guidance by putting the events together again, but you are not really active in of them crossing over, because they do that by themselves. Can happen. If that doesn't happen, you give a bit of guidance there too, with the help of God, the universe, the management upstairs, however you want to call it, right? Now, a different reason for staying on the earth plane after they passed away could be fear of retribution. There are many reasons for that. It doesn't always have to be, it does not always have to be a murderer or very, very drastic actions that makes them fear the consequences of their actions. But religion, and not just one, but more than one religion, is teaching, if you don't do well, if you don't behave well in this life, well, there are going to be consequences. So that can be going to hell or coming back as an inferior life form or anything like that. And this is the fear of retribution that they face, and so they don't want to move forward because they are afraid of the unknown, what might happen to them. They fear it's going to be worse than remaining on the earth plane. Like I said, it doesn't always have to be the really bad things they did. Depending on their upbringing, how they were taught through life, in what kind of society they lived in, there can be definitely that fear that they were not good enough in life. All right, so that can be then another reason why they stay on the earth plane, just simply because they are afraid. Now, another reason that a soul remains on this plane is that they are stuck in a loop of an event, or either that they did themselves or that was done to them. So they are stuck in a loop, and that plays over and over again, and they are basically there. They are not aware of the environment they are actually in. They don't necessarily see the house you live in as your house. Maybe, let's put it like that, maybe you live in an old house, right? It's already, let's say, 200 years old. It went through a lot of modernizations. There might have been an event happening in that home at some point. There was violence. Somebody passed away of a violent death. Somebody was robbed in the house and was murdered, right? And this event plays over and over and over again. And the spirit that is trapped in that loop will not know of any of the modernizations that have been done, will not be aware of any of the families or people that ever lived in that house afterwards. They are still in their past, and that event plays over and over again. And because of the unawareness of it, they are still on the earth plane because nobody gets through. So usually they are not aware of you. And often you are not necessarily even aware of them because you live in totally two different realities, right? If we talk about an event like that being in a loop, sometimes you can also talk about ghosts when not really a soul is involved, but it's the event that creates maybe a haunting. So let's assume this robbery was happening at midnight. Oh yeah, let's go with midnight, right? Why not? And at midnight, you hear in your home always a knocking on the door, thump against the wall. And that can be then also a ghost when there's not really a soul, a spirit involved, but the event in itself, if that makes sense. So that's also a possibility. When working with earthbound soul or trapped, earthbound spirits or trapped souls, we can also sometimes encounter a tricky soul. So this one will be harder to persuade to move on. They have a certain authority over the other spirits in your home, if there are more, or even in the area. And they will prevent those others to move into the light. So the main work will then be with that tricky soul. Now, what they all have in common, or almost all of them, is that they are detrimental to us. Even if you are not really aware of the ghost, so you don't have any kind of poltergeist activity in your home, but if they can be found, they are almost always detrimental to you. Simply because it is such a different vibration and they are just in a place where they are not supposed to be. They are supposed to move on and continue on their journey. So it's going to be detrimental to you if you are sensitive to those things. So I mentioned before that if something happened in your house many years ago, there might be a spirit, experiencing a loop. But for you to have a spirit in your home, you can also live in a brand new house that you build yourself and still have a spirit in there. Where is it coming then from? A trapped spirit does not have to have died on your property to be in your home. It is possible that they are drawn to the energy of the home, of the surrounding, or the land of where the home stands on. It can also be that they are attracted to the people, to the energy of the people that live there. This can be because of similar life experiences that they feel drawn to you. It's something they know, or similar energy patterns that you share something. Sometimes it's that they can just find people attractive and are lingering then around because of that. Like I mentioned already, there's not always an indication or a physical indication that you have a spirit in your home. There is not always flickering lights or knocking on the door or things disappearing. That's not necessarily always the case. Sometimes you can feel it. Sometimes it's just something like feeling a cold spot in a certain area. That could be an indication. But you can also feel just overall tired, drained, watched. That could be indications for spirits being in your home. If an energy clearer or a house healer checks for those things, or even if you look for yourself for a spirit in your home, what can happen is that then you become aware of them and then they become aware of you, and then you might experience some activity. It doesn't have to be, but it can happen. That's why it is also said to, if you find spirits in your home, to clear and heal that straight away before you continue anything else. So that the disturbance keeps to a minimum. Now let's move on to the next beings. Those are the guardians. And we have an inner house healing report. We'll look for 3 different type of guardians. The first guardian is called a guardian of the site, and every plot of earth on this planet has a guardian of the site. So this custodian is very protective of his land and will make you aware if something bothers him, her. So when I use gendered here, it's really not important. It makes it easier, but maybe you feel something more masculine energy, maybe you feel something in more feminine energy, but it kind of doesn't matter how you really refer to them. I don't think they mind, and it shouldn't bother us either. But just because language, it's easier. I'm just going to say he now for all of the guardians, just because it's easier now. So every time I worked or communicated with the guardian of the site, what came always through is that I often hear about environmental issues that they worry about or are upset about. If there's a detrimental value, it's often because of environmental issues, which kind of every area has, or a lot of areas we live in have some form of issue. You cannot do much about that. The only thing you can do, if you have, of course, a garden or anything, don't use harsh chemicals to maintain your garden, don't use pesticides, etc., etc., because that will upset them. That you can do yourself. Otherwise, well, if they, if the issue is on a bigger scale that you can do nothing about, well, you can do nothing about it then. And you can also work with those guardians to help adjust the earth energy flows if you go further into the report later, or we have discussed already the earth energy line. Sorry, I don't know exactly where I am with the videos. I pre-record a lot. So, but they can they can help you in this matter. You can connect with them to work with the earth energy lines as well. Now, the second guardian is the spirit of the place, also called Genius Loci. So they are often found at sacred sites, but then again, it's not all land sacred, I ask myself. This guardian differs a bit from the guardian of the site. He is not as direct. He could feel a bit more subtle, or this guardian could feel a bit more subtle. It is said that the Genius Loci is almost like an aura of the place, and it carries the energy patterns of the physical structures around. Another difference is that the spirit of the place overlooks a vaster area than the guardian of the site. The spirit of the place also holds memories from past events and can be worked with when dealing with historical place memory, which we will have a look at a later point. So whenever you visit a sacred site, it is advisable to ask the guardian's permission to enter. Rarely will you get a no to enter a sacred site. So when you traveled far to visit a sacred site and then you're afraid to ask because you might get a no, even if you get a no, take another breath, go away for a couple of minutes, take a few deep breaths in and out, just calm yourself. Maybe you're a bit too frantic to enter. That might sometimes be a reason why you're not allowed to enter. But it's showing respect to the guardian, to the spirit of the place. Sorry. You can also connect with them and ask them questions. Again, either via dowsing or other divination tools. I have a tarot spread on my homepage. And also I have still an old video. I will put the link in the description box. Let's move on to the third guardian, which is the guardian of the home. And this one is the closest one to you. And when I start a house healing job, the first guardian I will connect with will be the guardian of the home. By communicating with this being, I often get already an overview of what issues there might be concerning the home and the surrounding land, and maybe even from the people themselves. This guardian reflects often the atmosphere of a home. All of that contains the colors you use, the kind of decoration you have in your home, the feelings you bring into the home all the time, the scents you use to freshen up your home. All of that can play a role on how this guardian of the home is built up, if that makes sense. When I tune into a home, the guardian often shows me through images how a home feels. If there is turmoil or stuck energy, or if for example, I had once the experience that I was shown a lot of water, and in the end the house had a lot of water veins running through. Now you can connect with your own guardian of the home, even if you're not dowsing or anything, but you can start communicating with them. Tell them if you want to make any changes in the home. Just sit in your home and meditate, or just sit. Just sit and be quiet if you can. And just try to set the intention, I want to connect with the guardian of the home, and see what happens. You can also just tell them about your day. Let them be. Those are living beings. They are real. They are part of your family, so treat them as such. Let's move on. So we had the spirits, we had the guardians, and now we come to thought and life forms. Thought and life forms are self-created energetic beings, and they come into existence through us. We create them as human beings. A thought form is made up of energy and contains emotions and mental matter. If your thoughts are very clear, no matter what thoughts, positive, negative, whatever, try not to judge it. If they are very clear and precise, so will that thought form be. And they will be very well defined and carry clear patterns. But if your thoughts are vague, so the being will be. The pattern will not be as clear. Now, a little side note here, there can be different thought and life forms. What I am talking about is that we might not be even aware of. I know you can self-create them. That's a whole different topic. This is the thought and life forms I am talking now is probably the ones that you don't want in your home and that you create involuntarily. All right, just as a side note. They can be short-lived if not regularly fed with our feelings or our thoughts. Yet if we tend to overthink, playing the same thoughts over and over again in our head, and if we create the same emotions over and over again, then they can really manifest in our homes and even in our lives. Not every thought form will be detrimental, so I said that already before. They can also manifest from positive thoughts, but again, as it comes to energy clearings, what we're talking about now, that is what we're looking at. These thought forms will grow if we keep feeding them. They will manifest clearer, and at some point they will turn into independent life forms. Then they don't need their host anymore. Then they don't need us to feed them. Then they are, well, we gave birth to them and sent them out into the world and probably into our home. Let's say you had strong negative thoughts about work, you feel stressed and treated unfairly. For example, you keep replaying arguments in your head, and this will also create anger. If the situation at work doesn't improve, you will continue to have negative thoughts and feelings about it. And then the thought form detaches itself from you and has now enough energy to exist outside of you. And then imagine now that this thought form dwells in your home office, for example. And every time you work there, it will influence you again. So it's a vicious cycle, the whole thing. They also often come into existence through conflict. If you have a lot of arguments with your partner, for example, or live in a house where the former occupants were going through a divorce, chances are that such a thought or life form roams about your home. So this is a possibility, and they can be quite draining. Independent life forms have a consciousness and they can understand that they are being seen, so they might even hide from you, even as you douse, even from a house healer. And it takes a look and another look and then maybe even a third look before you actually find them. Now, another being that we look at in the house healing report are lower animal life forms. They are very ancient beings and very primal in nature. They don't have a physical body, but an energetic one. They existed already long before us, and it is said that they are interested in our emotional range because they don't have that themselves. So it is said that they are curious about how we feel, what emotions are. If they attach to you yourself, they are likely to be found in your auric field, but sometimes they can also attach to your chakras. If they are not attached to a person itself, they might be found in darker corners of your home, like real insects. You can't just imagine them as insects, as cockroaches, as whatever you want, you know. And as like real insects, they like the darker corners, damp maybe even. So they can be found in areas of your home that are a bit darker corners. They can be found there. But they can also be around portals, which we will also have a look at a later point in more detail, not in this video. Personally, I don't consider them to have a massive detrimental effect, but of course, again, that is up to the individual and it really depends. I never came across that it has a massive effect. I also find them quite easy to clear, so that's a good thing, at least up until now. I also suspect that they are not as manipulative as other beings, and this will lead us to the next section, dark energy beings. So much can be said about these beings. The way I was taught in my house healing course to write up a report didn't include a section on its own for those beings. However, during my 10 months training period and also straight afterwards, I kept coming across them rather often, the dark energy beings. Therefore, I have created now in my report a separate section for them, or a separate heading for them. So because I find them more often than not, actually. So Now, what are dark energy beings? They are definitely intelligent beings and know how to hide from us. Some may call them demons. The Greek word daemon means a supernatural being or spirit, but in the context we use demon today, the word demon today, we refer to an evil spirit or a being from hell. So, and this is all a matter of belief system and frankly perspective. My belief is more set in pagan roots, and so my view of them is not like they would be workers from hell. That's not exactly how I see it. What you have to understand is I'm not trying to get away from the dark. On the contrary, there's a reason why I keep finding them. I do not shy away from darkness. They are here on earth, they are around us, and they are part of everything. They are part of the divine. They are, again, almost always, and I would say for the most people they are definitely detrimental. But again, they are part of the divine, they are here to keep the balance. Even if you do not like them, even if you don't even want to be confronted with them or anything, totally understand. However, if you ever come across something like that, it is important to be respectful, as they are part of the divine. I keep just repeating that now, that they are part of the divine. They're just the other side of the coin. Just as we respect when we work with angels or other higher beings, same thing here, even with the dark energy beings, they deserve our respect. Because this goes a long way, your relationship with them. If you don't want one, absolutely understand that, then you don't have to. But there is a difference if you start commanding them around with crosses and things like that. Well, that will not get you anywhere, except for either you piss them off or they just, chuckle and go away and will come back another day, maybe even stronger. But if you have a respectful conversation with them and treat them as an equal, you might even learn something from them. So why do they even turn up in your own personal energy field or in your home? So dark energy beings are attracted to us because of certain emotions that create lower vibrations. Now, I am not the biggest fan to say high vibrations, low vibrations, because it's so judgmental and it's, oh my god, you cannot be sad because that is a lower vibration. That's absolutely not what I mean. When I talk about high vibration or lower vibration, all I mean is when you're happy and everything is great, you feel quite light, you're almost floating through space, right? However, if you are experiencing sadness, loneliness, grief, whatever, it is something that drags you down. You're going more down to the earth, basically, right? And so that's why I say then lower and higher without any judgment. All those emotions have their place in our human experience. It's how we grow, it's how we learn, it's how we move forward. So we have to experience those two. I am no fan of pushing it down. That, please understand before I continue. Now, they do turn up because we experience and have those emotions, right? Like anger, grief, greed, sadness, loneliness, you name it. It is attractive to them. It is a food source for them. They feed on these emotions and they can even manipulate us. So we stay longer in this low vibrational state, so we remain a food source for them. So I just said, those emotions are valid and you should have them. Don't bottle them up. I even think, in my experience, the more you bury that, the more you don't allow that, because in either a spiritual community or in society, it is not proper to have those emotions. You bottle it up, and that's where I think where those beings, where dark energy beings, they're having a blast there. By people who bring it up, who do their shadow work, who let them have those, who have those feelings, who bring that to the surface. Yes, it's there, but by constantly bringing them up, we can also release them. that's when they can be released, and then they are not constantly in us and fester within, right? So by those who really don't allow themselves a negative thought or a negative emotion, negative, you know, I think you understand where I stand now. I think that is really where those beings then really latch on, because it's so nicely how that festers inside. So the bottling up is not an option. Bring it up to the surface, release. Bring it up to the surface, release. And it's gonna be constantly like that. It's happening over and over again. We will always experience things that make us feel upset, sad, angry, and just allow it. Allow it to happen, and then you can release. That's just my opinion on the matter. The more aware we are of our own darkness and don't push it down so hard, the less interesting we are for them. Because even if we work with the darkness within ourselves, we at least work actively on our healing and allow the light to reach us and the shadows within ourselves. Now, so that is one reason why dark energy beings are in our home or in your energy field. Through the emotions, and like I said, they might manipulate you to continue you to be in that cycle. Not so great, so good when somebody looks at that. Because if you're not really a person who is very self-aware or who understand or know themselves quite well, your thoughts can be so manipulated. So basically, to increase your awareness towards those beings is also to increase your knowledge about yourself. Dark energy beings can also enter our homes through portals. Again, I said it already, like the lower animal forms, we will have a look at portals next time. They can also turn up in households where someone enjoys watching horror movies. Again, they feed on fear, and getting that thrill during a horror movie can attract them. Now, I'm not saying nobody is allowed to watch horror movies, but it could attract them, especially if you get really scared of them. That can also be gaming of any kind, especially, I will bring that up, addiction. Anything that is quite addictive, gaming, certain things, certain games, depending, especially those on the phone or anything like that, can be quite addictive. So that's a way how they can enter. Addiction in itself, substance abuse or anything like that, that definitely attracts them, and they will feed into that, and they will also latch onto you to keep you in that cycle of addiction. So yeah, that's really a topic in itself. If you don't know if anything might, if for example horror movies or certain games might attract it, just be very observant. Let's say you watch a horror movie now, and if really nothing changes, it does not really have an effect for you. But if you feel a bit darker, or you're a bit more moody than usual, or clumsy, or anything else, it might have an effect on you. Now, I also want to say that not everyone who ever has a negative thought will attract dark energy beings or anything like that, but it's much more of when the whole thing becomes so repetitive. When you have experienced trauma, for example, that is sometimes such a long cycle, such a long healing journey, and if you are in that trauma loop, that can attract them too. And they even add, or they even create more difficulties for you, right? And it's unfair, and you might think, I don't deserve that with all that is going on, and now I have dark energy beings, and it's true, you know. It's true, it's annoying, but it's not punishment. It's only a reaction, nothing more and nothing less. It's a reaction from all there is, I want to say. If you suspect any kind of those dark energy beings in or around your house or in your energy field, you can get help. House healers do work with those kinds of beings. and are aware of them. And through clearing and further guidance, you will learn how to create an environment that won't be interesting for them. But again, it's not all about just positive thinking, it's always, don't get me wrong, that's a good way, right? But it's not just that, there are layers. I would, if you have never worked in any way with beings or dark energy beings, I would not do it alone. I would ask for help. I would ask the help of somebody who is experienced in it, who has dealt with them already, because they can be quite tricky. Like I said, they are intelligent beings. They hide, they sneak around, they manipulate you. So better get somebody from the outside to have a look at that. Especially if you are new to those topics or you haven't done any kind of energy work so far. I could still say so much about dark energy beings, and I have so much experiences that I kind of want to share, but also this video is getting quite long. So I'm gonna stop here with the dark energy beings. And also with the beings in general. So I hope this was helpful and you got a bit of an understanding of what's what and why is it there. If you have any questions, please let me know. And if you like this video, please like, subscribe and hit the notification bell. I would be very, very grateful, and it helps my channel to grow and so I can continue to make more videos. Thank you so much for watching. I hope your world is kind. Much love and bye.